Everybody, welcome back to Wicked Good Sports. This is a new segment that we're calling Bayou Breakdown because we're focusing on the New Orleans Saints, which happens to be our guest host, Jack Tiernan's favorite team. Jack, how you doing?
Brian, I'm good, thanks. I'm glad we're finally to be able to talk about football.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, basketball's good, but this is a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I think obviously this channel started as a football channel for like the first 2 months. I exclusively covered football, and then obviously football ended. Had to branch out, and we've had a lot of fun talking about the NBA. But Jack reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, I would love to like talk about some football." So we were like, "All right, let's do it. Let's talk about the Saints and see where that takes us." And I think, especially right now, this is an interesting period for the Saints because they're coming off of like an era where it's like one of the best QB eras for any team of all time with Drew Brees and a lot of uncertainty. Similar situation to where the Patriots are at now. So this is like the perfect time to check back in. Also, it's the situation the Dolphins have been in pretty much my entire life. Unfortunately, still haven't quite nailed it down. Hopefully the Saints don't languish in QB purgatory for quite as long. So,
No,
Jack,
please.
we've had a lot of drama with the Saints so far this offseason, specifically centering around Michael Thomas, who was hurt at the end of last year, came back for the end. You know, he wanted to come back for Drew Brees. You know, it was probably his last go-around. It ended up being. And then apparently he ghosted the Saints all offseason, and then right when training camp was firing up, he's like, by the way, I need to get a surgery. Jack, what the hell is going on here?
Dude, Michael Thomas is the biggest diva on an NFL roster to date. That beats out Antonio Brown. That beats out, I don't know actually if what's his face from the Bengals, the guy who took
Chad
out
Johnson.
AB and
Oh,
no, not Chad Johnson. The you know who I'm talking. Vontae's perfect. I don't think he's
yeah.
on a roster anymore, but I hate him.
No,
Um,
no.
Biggest diva on an NFL roster currently is Michael Thomas, 100%. I really used to defend this guy all the time because I was just like, I'm so used to getting hate, as I'm sure you're aware of too as a Dolphins fan, just getting
Right.
hate for not being a Pats fan.
Yep.
Um,
It's
and
tough here in New England.
it is.
For us,
Nobody is friendly. But I'm at the point now where I'm like, I can't defend this guy anymore. He does so many things that are just so critical, and like he's so soft mentally and he does this stuff, and he's like, by the way, like, I'm ghosting you guys, and then Sean Payton made some public comments, and he's like, yeah, we didn't really love that Michael
Well,
Thomas elected to get
that's
surgery and didn't tell
understandable.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fair. I think it's pretty fair. But MT took exception to that, so he and Sean Payton have hashed it out the last couple of days or whatever, and their intentions are lowering, I guess, reportedly. So it'll be good to have him back, but he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season because he
Right.
waited until June to get that ankle surgery. Now, I mean, normally it would be a situation like, oh, maybe the team is this like withholding information, or they misdiagnosed this injury, right? And that's why he's not, that's why he's had to wait this long to get surgery. But the way it's been projected is that that's not the case, and this was
Yeah.
an elective surgery. So I don't know. It seems like that is a bit frustrating for Sean Payton and the Saints. But I mean, we don't have any receivers as is, so Michael Thomas will be important.
And, I mean, when he's playing and he's healthy, he's, like, maybe the best receiver in the league. So it's a really
Debatably, right.
weird situation to be in where, he had, like, 150 receptions, like, a couple of years ago. Like, the
Yeah.
dude is an absolute machine when he's on.
Yeah.
It's just, when he was hurt last year and now coming into this, that's not quite ideal, especially when you have a QB controversy going,
Yeah.
and I'm sure both quarterbacks would love to have Michael Thomas out there,
I think it would certainly help their numbers, right? And you have to wonder, maybe that's why he's holding out so much, right? He's like, I really don't want any of these bums thrown at me, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. I think we'll see when he's back how he does.
Yeah, so is there a time like line for him to come back, or is it just like a few weeks into the season we'll see where he's at?
That's kind of what I thought it was. I
Yeah.
thought that I saw a timeline of like week 4.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Which week 4 is not bad. That's still plenty of
No,
time. But I
especially with
think
17 games this year, it's not horrible.
true. That's probably not a bad thing considering he's probably the best player on the team aside from maybe Alvin Kamara, right?
Yeah,
Who's been
right.
more consistent. But it's a toss up.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully he gets better, and hopefully his relationship with Sean Payton gets a little better. It has been contentious, to say the least, with
Yes.
them, with liking tweets, sniping at each other through, well, not Sean Payton, but with Michael Thomas sniping at him through social media. It's just like, what is going on?
We got to shut
Yes,
his accounts down. I don't
yes.
want to see him on social media ever again.
Honestly, every NFL player, every pro athlete should just hire a social media manager and just never
Just
actually
burner.
log on. Yeah, get a burner. Follow the
Right.
Kevin Durant playbook, get a
Yes,
burner,
yes.
and just go for it that way. Because there's nothing good that really comes out of being on social media for these teams.
No.
Like, be it in the off season when it's like, oh, did you see this player unfollowed all of his teammates and deleted all of his pictures in uniform? Like, it's just
Right. Like,
so much drama all the time. So we'll see.
too much.
And Michael Thomas,
Yeah.
he's a messy bitch. I'll say that. He gets into it. He's in the trenches. Like, I remember last offseason, him and Devontae Parker getting into it on Twitter. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys?
Like, stop. Just stop. Right.
Oh, man. So we'll see what happens there. Kind of going from him to the people who will potentially be throwing him the ball. And we can work in the first preseason game with this. Jameis Winston versus Taysom Hill. Did a video a couple weeks ago where it was reported that Taysom Hill was going to be the starter. That has not been confirmed by anybody. I just want to make that quite clear that, that was a rumor. In that video, I'm pretty sure I laid it out that this is a rumor. We don't know. But, Jack, what are you hearing out of the Saints after watching the preseason game? What do you think?
Man, look at the numbers. They had very similar in the preseason game. They had very similar numbers. I have them right here. Taysom went 8 for 12, and Jameis went 7 for 12 for 96, and Taysom went for 81. But Taysom had no touchdowns and did throw a pick, and Jameis did have a pick and a touchdown, similar to his 30 for 30 season. He's on pace. That's good.
His
Good.
MO is like one touchdown, one pick. It's very balanced.
Exactly. I will say that his pick was like a bobble by a receiver who literally pushed it like 20 feet into the air, and like of course the other team's gonna come down with that, right? So like it is what it is. But I think Taysom's got a big arm, but Jameis's arm is bigger, and I think everything that Taysom can do as a quarterback, Jameis does better, honestly. Except for running. I think Taysom is obviously a better, Swiss Army knife as he's been used in years past, but neither of them will be a terrible option, but I don't think either is going to be good. I think if you're looking at ceilings, though, I think your higher ceiling is Jameis 100%. And I think even as much as Sean Payton loves and wants to friggin' jerk off Taysom Hill,
he does.
Everybody knows it. It's no secret. He did restructure his contract to be 4 years, and I think it was a stupid amount of money for Taysom Hill. I remember
it was
that.
Literally like $80 million
for 100?
or $100 million.
Yeah.
It was like a weird contract where the Saints can opt out of it each year.
Whenever.
So it's
Yep.
It's good for the player and it's good for the team because say Taysom Hill comes out and he kills it, he's going to be, on this contract. He's going to be all set. But say he's not that good, the Saints can walk away if,
thanks for your services.
Yeah. So, sorry, you go.
No, you're good. I was just going to say that I think that was probably intentional. I think Sean Payton even knows that this probably isn't like a legitimate option at QB. I think he's 31 years old, right? So
yeah, he's a little older.
Right, because you think that the Saints picked him up off the side of the road basically when he was undrafted, but he played for the Green Bay Packers for a bit, backing up Rodgers.
He's Mormon, so Mormon players go on missions before they even go to college to begin with. So he's already older. Already old. Got into college, so.
Right, and that explains his age, of course, right, and when he was eventually drafted. And I mean, I really think that if I had to pick somebody to win this job, it's going to be Jameis, and that's I think just because he has more of the quarterback. I don't know, man. He's kind of more of a passing first QB, and that's kind of what Breeze was, and it's an easier fit into the system. He can bomb it. Taysom can bomb it too, but his accuracy is definitely not as good. Granted, 30 for 30, Jameis Winston, right? So I guess it is what it is. But I think Jameis overall is going to end up being able to run an offense better.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think for pure quarterback talent, standpoint, there's a reason Jameis Winston was the first overall pick in the draft.
Right.
He's a very, talented quarterback. He has all the intangibles there. And I think his coaching wasn't super great with Raheem Morris in terms of developing him. And then he had the 1 year with Bruce Arians, who he runs a very specific type where it is a lot of stand in the pocket, take chances, and that, of course, led to a lot of interceptions on his part. Sean Payton is a master at coaching quarterbacks. Like, people forget, Drew Brees with the San Diego Chargers was very good, but he wasn't Drew Brees that we know. He was like a good quarterback who became an all-time great quarterback under Sean Payton's coaching. So I think that I'm not going to be like, hey, Jameis Winston 100% is going to be the next Drew Brees.
GOAT. Yeah.
But I do think that it's possible that he comes out and becomes like a really solid Pro Bowl caliber quarterback with Sean Payton.
I completely agree. And I mean, again, like you said it, he was drafted first overall for a reason. And I think with Sean Payton's more conservative, especially than Bruce Arians, never mind Raheem Morris, but with Bruce Arians' boom or bust take on, bomb the ball downfield, it's going to be a lot easier to do, just standard safe quarterback things where Jameis can at least get his feet under him. And when he gets more comfortable with this offense, then he can throw his bombs that he was like better at doing with better, quote unquote, when doing at Tampa Bay. Of course, we don't really have any receivers to do that right now, but like in due time,
right.
There's hope. I think Jameis will be a good quarterback, and I think he's got a higher ceiling than Taysom for sure.
Yeah, and I mean the Saints always develop good receivers. Is that because Drew Brees was the quarterback? Who's to say? I mean, Kenny Stills was pretty good when he went to the Dolphins, so I can say that. They certainly have an eye for talent there. Brandon Cook's another one who was very good. Yeah, Marquise Colston just
of course.
Yeah, probably the most underrated wide receiver I think of his generation.
I'm gonna say of all time, but I'll hold back on that.
I don't know if he even made a Pro Bowl despite putting up Pro Bowl caliber seasons his whole career, but that's a whole nother story. We can do a whole video just talking about how underrated I think Marquise Colston is, but. So we'll see. We got 2 more preseason games to figure this out before they have to make a decision. I think it's well established at this point that our stance is Jameis Winston's the better choice, but we're kind of accepting that Sean Payton might just be like, no, I love Taysom Hill too much. I need to start him. So we'll see.
He could alternate, man. He alluded to that at one point during a press conference where he's like, I don't need to pick one. Like, I have 2 good dudes who know how to run this offense. And I'm like, stop, please. Yeah, just make up your mind.
Yeah, I don't know how well that will work.
It won't.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff is quarterbacks getting into a rhythm and like getting a feel for how the game's going. But we'll see. Jack, anything else you want to touch on before we get on out of here for our first Bayou breakdown?
The Bayou breakdown. No, I think the only thing I'll touch on is that Ian Book was a quarterback the Saints drafted in the later rounds this year, and he went out and put up 9 for 16 for 126. So I don't think he's gonna. Obviously, there's a third option in the mix now, right?
Yeah. But everyone's talking about Justin Fields and how well he did. Where's the love?
Where's Ian Book love? Right.
Yeah,
I think eventually. He could be a successor, but it's obviously way too early for that now.
Yeah,
either way, no, definitely good like quarterback play from the Saints, I would say. But it will be fun to watch to see who ends up winning this job out, and if Sean Payton's love for Taysom takes over, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll be here to just talk about any interesting things happening with that, any developments with it. Jack, where can they find you online?
You can find me online at Twitter. It's at Jack_Tiernan. A lot of basketball takes, of course, is my first love, but I've also got some football takes for sure that I will tweet out as the season approaches.
Yeah, so if you liked this, follow Jack there. And if you just liked Jack in general, well, we have a lot of videos where we talk about NBA happenings. That's in our playlist at The Buzzer. Check those out. You can follow me on Twitter at TheFakeBMar, that's BMARR. The channel is on Twitter at WickedGoodSport or at WGEverything. We have 2 other YouTube channels. One is youtube.com/WickedEverything, more comedy gaming channel. Then we have our podcast channel, Better Radio. I already did Twitter, right? The Instagram is at Wicked Get Everything. The TikTok is Wicked Get Everything. Twitch is twitch.tv/Wicked Get Everything. Find us here on YouTube. Find us in podcast services. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.